So this month's random anime I rolled on Crunchyroll is none other than a certain scientific railgun. Well, originally I rolled Index, but people yelled at me. They were like, SeaTactics, you can't watch Index first. It's terrible. You have to watch Railgun. And if you don't watch Railgun, we're gonna eat your legs. And I'm not gonna let someone eat my legs again. It's ridiculous. But this series has countless spin-offs and sequels. It's a franchise that's withstood the test of time and is for many a staple of the JC Staff catalog. And that's right, we're reviewing yet another JC Staff anime, as last month's episode saw me cover the surprisingly solid Lost Rising-sided Wixus. Yes, I'm still pronouncing it wrong, but this is actually a series I've been wanting to get into for a very long time, as a lot of my friends enjoy and regularly watch this series. So with that being said, let's get into the review, and as well stick around until later in the video when we roll for the next random anime I'll be reviewing in this series. A certain scientific railgun follows Misaka Makoto, the famous railgun who lives in Academy City, a city filled with scientific advancements and as well espers that vary in abilities and strengths. Misaka is joined by her friends Kuroko Shirai, a teleporter, Ruriko Saten, and Kazuri Uiharu, and together they will experience all that Academy City has to offer. This is a certain scientific railgun. So first off, okay, come on y'all. Do we really need this kind of fan service in a show about schoolgirls? I get it. This anime is outdated in this aspect, as in back in the day this was more accepted for some reason, but today this stuff honestly just makes this show seem more inconsistent than it really is. Case in point, whole fan service episodes. Imagine if you're watching this really good anime, and suddenly there is a whole episode that's filler where nothing happens, but little girls are trying on bikinis. It's horrid. It's awful. It's harmed the enjoyment of this series in a really bad way, and it makes even more characters seem more inconsistent than they should be. It makes the series seem inconsistent. And you know what I'm talking about. We're talking about Kuroko here. Anyone who's seen this series probably likes something about her. She's not a bad character at all, but for some godforsaken reason, she is borderline harassing Misaka sometimes. So when we get to these awesome scenes with Kuroko, whether they be comedic or dramatic, it makes her character feel inconsistent and poorly written. And here's the thing, there is nuance and subtle writing here, but it's really hard to get there because the series is front-loaded with awful fan service. Not to mention, Saten walking up to Uehara and flipping up her skirt in public. God, this isn't funny. There's nothing funny about it, so why is this happening? It's obvious these things are just a holdover from a bygone era of anime, and thank God a lot of it has been eliminated. But man, it's hard sometimes in the beginning to even get through some of this stuff. Thankfully, if you do a little research, you should be able to go ahead and skip some of these troublesome episodes, as they are filler a lot of the times and don't require you really watching them. Which you shouldn't. You shouldn't watch them. They're bad. But that being said, Railgun is an interesting series when it comes to filler. There is only a small amount of filler that I would consider not watching, and that's typically just the fan service episodes or the slice of life episodes, which are mind-numbing, but we literally just talked about those. In reality, a majority of the filler is actually really damn good. The series takes advantage of filler by having more ways to flesh out characters and as well introduce characters and develop them before they show back up later in the series. Railgun is rewarding in this regard, because if you stick with Railgun and skip the fan service and slice of life filler, you are treated to some really fun episodes and arcs that flesh out a lot of the world and setting. Which, speaking of, the setting is key to Railgun. It has been described to me by many fans of the series as sort of the main character, and after watching and finishing season 1, I can't help but agree. There is a lot of truth to that statement. Academy City is where scientific innovation and espers live. Just that alone makes the city intriguing and fascinating. But as the series develops with each episode, not only do we understand our four main characters better, but we understand just how fleshed out the city is in many ways. The city feels real and organic, like there is an adventure to be had at every turn, which is a really awesome, kind of subtle part of this series. I can't give enough credit for how well they pulled this off. This is how they're able to give the filler episodes such life and meaning too, because you can have a whole bunch of characters from Index show up and just integrate them rather easily. It doesn't feel unnatural because it makes total sense to have this huge city and still have these characters run into each other. And those characters are really good too. Misaka is a great main character, and she's a lot of fun to see how she interacts with everyone in her development. I think what I like about her character the most is how childish she is in nature. She still wears shorts under her skirt, backing up that claim. As well, she doesn't really know how to act when Toma comes about, seemingly at random times causing her to go on edge. She's fun, but she's also a very strong character too. She is the famous Railgun after all, which means essentially she is one of the strongest in Academy City and is able to manipulate electricity and shoot these bolts at her enemies. And in these action scenes, she usually does steal the show, as it's awesome seeing her use her abilities. This is yet another area where Railgun excels at. The action and drama is simply perfect for this series. I couldn't ask for better action scenes, and they're always entertaining and never let the viewer down on both visuals and creativity. The action is much like its setting and selling point for Railgun. At least it was for me, especially in that bank robbery scene, as it's one of the first examples of how dark Railgun can get thematically. While I think Season 1 is dominated with comedy and more lighthearted themes and tones, I think the darker moments stick out more. And that makes sense once you see them, because they do not hold back at all. These dark scenes are dark, and just because they're little girls doesn't mean they don't experience as much pain as they can dish out. But I do want to make sure it's understood that Railgun doesn't get dark just to get dark, because in Academy City, there are people who you do not want to deal with. I would go as far to say the darker moments are probably a reason to watch Railgun. And it's that time again to roll for the next anime I'll be covering, and this time we've rolled Saint Seiya: The Lost Canvas. This is a series I've been meaning to check out actually, it's a classic, so expect this to be covered next month on my channel, but if you want to see this review right now, and I literally do mean right now, just head on over to my Patreon, where becoming a patron on the $1 tier or above gets you access to this video a whole month early, including other exclusive content. Now, let's get back to the video. But while there are a lot of great darker moments in Railgun, there are quite a bit of hijinks and comedy to enjoy. Case in point, the double-edged sword, Kuroko Shirai. Kuroko is a hilarious character when she's not perving out, and I do mean that. It feels so effortless sometimes with how funny and entertaining she can be outside of those awful instances. One of my favorite scenes is when Kuroko and Misaka are talking to Stripper Lady, aka Harumi Kiyama. Kiyama is a great character as is, but one of her funnier aspects is that she strips at random times, although this is later dropped seemingly in the second half. Now, I know I may be, seem hypocritical saying I like this aspect about her, but in context, it's really funny. So let me explain. For one, Kiyama is a really dramatic character, but at the same time, her stripping is always played to comedic effect. Sure, there is some titillation here and there. It's an anime girl stripping, but nobody watching it honestly ever really should care about this anyways. I certainly didn't. It's the comedy of a straight character like Kiyama being so dramatic and so serious that she just starts stripping and thus subverting your expectations. It's comedy 101, but her stripping on her own isn't what makes it great. It's always how others react to her doing so, which is why I'm using this scene as an example. In the hospital, she starts to strip and Kuroko is offended by this and goes to put her clothes back on. I mean, this is a great scene because Kuroko is the most sexually charged character in Railgun, and even she thinks Kiyama is being a little bit indecent. And that's the joke. Because Kuroko's horny person, but, you know, funny. Haha! But this also brings up my love for Kiyama. I think she's a great antagonist-ish for this series. And I say ish because she's a great example of a Shades of Grey character. She's not really a good guy, but she ain't a bad guy either. And I'll let you figure that out for yourself, but her development, while not something that's consistently being developed or shown, is one that is compelling and really enjoyable, but also memorable. Her fight with Misaka at the end of the first core was incredible, and her backstory is heartbreaking, and you also learn to love her through her reasoning for what she's doing. And that's the beauty of Kiyama. You don't have to like what she's doing, but Kiyama is so easily likable, you can't help but be excited for her when she's in an episode. It usually means something awesome is about to happen. But the art for this series, it's lacking at times. This is a JC Staff anime after all, and even over 10 years ago, the issues which plague JC Staff now are the issues that plagued them in the past. While I love the art direction and designs a lot, there are certain designs and choices I think don't really work out. For example, some designs like the armored suits with Mar, they're just kind of generic and not really interesting. And this carries over to a lot of the designs for things like Kiyama's cars in general, really, and a lot of backgrounds in and out of the city. Sometimes the show looks like it just hasn't really aged well, and when JC Staff's more basic design choices in many of their anime just doesn't work a lot of the time. But when it does, it works out great. The character designs for our main characters look awesome and highly memorable. Who could forget Kuroko and Misaka's designs? They're iconic at this point. Overall, I think Season 1 of Railgun was really fun, and at times was really great. But I think Season 1 has so many inconsistencies that for many, it will be hard to see why people even enjoy this series at first. So, if you're someone who wants to check this out, I found skipping all of the fan service and slice of life episodes that had no ties to the story was the way to go for me. Of course, that will require some research, but I'm sure you can find forum posts on what episodes those are. And beware, there is a lot of filler, but there is a lot of filler you do not want to skip, as it's very good. But that is the thing, having this discussion about filler lists shows how flawed Season 1 of Railgun is. Railgun, it ain't gonna be for everyone. And even though it's a highly popular series in the fandom, I for one will likely continue to watch this series, as I greatly enjoyed a lot of Season 1, and I do like the characters. And for an anime I randomly got on Crunchyroll, well damn. Couldn't really ask for better. So with that being said, I do recommend this anime generally speaking. If you do your research and skip the bad stuff, which is really only in the first half, you should really end up enjoying it for what it's worth. But don't forget, if you are watching this on YouTube, my patrons are already enjoying my video on Saint Seiya as we speak because they're getting it a whole month early. And not only are you getting this series 1 month early on the $1 tier, but you're getting tons of exclusive content, like a lot of my older content that's not available anymore, or getting new content early. But if you don't want to pay for it, that's fine. I also have a ton of free content on Patreon, like drafts for reviews, podcast bloopers, and exclusive pre-shows and post-shows not available on YouTube. So, with that being said, thanks everybody for watching the video. Make sure to like, subscribe, and ring the bell if you haven't already. Comment down below, what are your thoughts on Railgun? That is something I actually want to hear from you guys, because there's a lot of controversy in this series. And as well, make sure to go to my Patreon, like I said before. Thanks for watching, guys. Bye-bye.